when she shot and killed Daunte Wright. Scott Peterson, who was convicted of murdering his wife, Lacey Peterson, had his death penalty reduced to a life sentence without parole. And Arizona is sending National Guard troops and additional resources to deal with the border crisis. Arizona Governor Doug Ducey says the Biden administration's inaction is to blame. Congress is taking action to stand up against the Chinese Communist Party's genocide against its own people. The House is on track tonight to pass 3 pieces of legislation to combat human rights abuses in China. NTD's Melina Weiskup reports from Capitol Hill.
The House is prepared to pass a package of bills to combat China's human rights abuses. We heard from House Speaker Pelosi today, who said why it's crucial to take action against what they refer to as China's crimes against humanity.
The PRC, the People's Republic of China, is waging a brutal campaign of repression against the Uyghur people and other minorities with mass incarceration, torture, and forced labor. We talked about it last week. And again, if we don't speak up because we have an economic interest, we lose all moral authority.
Congress on track to pass 3 pieces of legislation, the Uyghur Forced Labor Prevention Act, acknowledging that the International Olympic Committee failed to adhere to its own human rights commitments, and condemning the ongoing genocide and crimes against humanity being committed against Uyghurs and members of other religious and ethnic minority groups.
If we are the leaders of the world in terms of human rights, then we should hold other countries accountable for violations.
Speaker Pelosi noted that it's been 20 years since China joined the World Trade Organization.
And that action, the interaction trade-wise, has not been a success.
The legislation also calls on President Biden to take even more action to put an end to these atrocities. Reporting in Washington, D.C., Melina Weiskup, NTD News.
The UK and Canada are stepping up and announcing that officials from their nations won't attend the Beijing Olympics. Their actions follow a recent White House decision to enact a diplomatic boycott. NTD's Evelyn Lee has the story.
More countries are choosing not to send their officials to the Beijing Winter Olympics. This is what UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson told Parliament on Wednesday.
And there will be effectively a diplomatic boycott of the Winter Olympics in Beijing. No ministers are expected to attend.
The U.S. announced on Monday a diplomatic boycott of the Beijing Olympics over China's human rights abuses. Officials would not attend the game, though American athletes are still able to compete. Canada was quick to act too. On Wednesday, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau also announced a diplomatic boycott of the Beijing Olympics.
As a country, indeed, as many partners around the world, we are extremely concerned by the repeated human rights violations by the Chinese government. That is why we are announcing today that we will not be sending any diplomatic representation to the Beijing Olympic or Paralympic Games this winter.
Australia and New Zealand have already announced a diplomatic boycott earlier, and the European Union is still discussing the issue.
You might be wondering how the vaccines are holding up against the Omicron variant. Pfizer has just released an update. It says 2 doses won't give you the best protection anymore. NTD's Miguel Moreno has that story.
There is still a lot we don't know about the Omicron variant, but preliminary data released by Pfizer indicates that it lowers the protection of its vaccines. So the company says 3 Pfizer doses are needed to protect against infection. Keyword, infection. 2 doses, according to the press release, may still be enough to prevent severe disease. Pfizer's chief scientific officer, Dr. Michael Dolston, says a vaccinated individual will develop a greater level of protection against the virus after receiving a booster shot.
In order to protect against Omicron, you need to train the immune system with multiple vaccination. And we're so pleased to inform today that 3 vaccination with the current vaccines induces a robust protective level.
However, the World Health Organization says people shouldn't jump to conclusions based on early studies.
I think it's premature to conclude that this reduction in neutralizing activity would result in a significant reduction in vaccine effectiveness. We do not know that. because as you know, the immune system is much more complex. There will be, I think Dr. Ryan said last time, that we are going to see a couple of weeks of everyday new information, new studies. One study is not going to really prove anything.
The WHO currently opposes booster shot recommendations, focusing instead on the primary vaccine doses against the CCP virus. But Dr. Dolston told CNN that he believes people should now have 3 doses to be considered fully vaccinated. Dr. Anthony Fauci says this definition change is always on the table. Miguel Moreno, NTD News.
At the moment, the FDA is being sued over documents about Pfizer's COVID-19 vaccine. The FDA has already asked a judge for 55 years to release those documents. Now they're asking for more time. NTD's Miguel Moreno reports.
The Food and Drug Administration has now asked a judge to give it 75 years to release the hundreds of thousands of documents in question, documents about the Pfizer COVID-19 vaccine. Lawyer Aaron Seary represents Public Health and Medical Professionals for Transparency, the organization suing the FDA. In a blog post referring to the FDA's request, he said, "And if you find what you are reading difficult to believe, that is because it is dystopian for the government to give Pfizer billions, mandate Americans to take its product, prohibit Americans from suing for harms, but yet refuse to let Americans see the data underlying its licensure." The FDA says one of its centers keeps the records sought by the plaintiff but only has 10 staff members. The federal agency also says their proposed 75-year schedule will allow them to respond to other information requests. The plaintiff wants all documents released within 108 days. Miguel Moreno, NTD News.
And the Senate is going to vote on a bill that would overturn President Biden's vaccine mandate for private businesses. 2 Democrats say they will join all Republicans, but the White House says Biden will veto the measure, even if both chambers approve it. Here are the details.
Senate Republicans led the effort to overturn the Biden vaccine mandate. They say they are not against the vaccine, but they are against the federal government mandating it. Democratic Senators Joe Manchin and John Tester have said that they also support the measure.
President Biden's absurd private sector vaccine mandate is blatant overreach. It is illegal. The administration has already lost in federal court and had it blocked.
Days after the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, or OSHA, published a vaccine rule for private companies in November, a panel of the U.S. Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals blocked it. The mandate would have required all private businesses with over 100 workers to require the vaccine or weekly testing.
The idea that an unelected bureaucracy, very small agency, can put forward this type of mandate in the form of OSHA, that sets all kinds of terrible precedent for the future.
Some senators who are against the mandate also point to potential damages to the economy and the labor market.
They are extremely concerned about the impact this will have on an already stretched and strapped workforce around this country. This is not something that the federal government should be interfering with.
Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer is against overturning the vaccine mandate, but he said he isn't worried about a few Democrats defecting on this issue.
There should be one message, and one message only, coming from this chamber to the American people. Get vaccinated, get boosted, stay safe yourself, keep your families, your communities, and our country safe.
The White House reacted to the potential passage of the bill. Press Secretary Jen Psaki on Tuesday said Biden will veto the bill, even if some Democrats vote in favor of it. She says, "We certainly hope the Senate, Congress will stand up to the anti-vaccine and testing crowd, and we're going to continue to work to implement these."
Both sides have delivered opening statements, and witnesses took the stand today in the manslaughter trial of former Minnesota police officer Kim Potter. She says she mistook her gun for a taser when she shot and killed Daunte Wright. NTD's Jason Perry has the story.
In April of this year, Minnesota police pulled over 20-year-old Daunte Wright. Police discovered that Wright had an outstanding warrant for failure to appear on a gross misdemeanor weapons violation. Officer Anthony Lucky, who took the stand on Wednesday, asked Wright to get out of the vehicle and attempted to place him under arrest. Wright then attempted to break free of Lucky and drive away when Potter intervened and yelled. before shooting Wright in the chest. He then drove into a head-on collision with another car 1 block down the street. State prosecutors explained what's at stake in the trial.
But intent is not an element of any of the charges at issue here, and it's not something that the state will have to prove. That the defendant didn't intend to kill Mr. Wright or that she didn't mean to shoot him with her gun, if you hear those things, they have nothing to do with the charges at hand.
Potter is charged with first-degree manslaughter and second-degree manslaughter. Prosecutors will have to prove either recklessness for the more serious charge and culpable negligence for the lesser charge. The defense explained that Sergeant Michael Johnson was leaning in the passenger side window while trying to stop Wright from driving away.
Then when she says taser, 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 if she does nothing, Mr. Wright drives away and either substantially harms Sergeant Johnson or, more likely, he kills him.
Wright's mother was on the phone with Dante and said someone hung up the phone before her son was shot, but she kept calling until a female answered the phone.
And I was like, what's wrong? And she said that they shot him. And she faced the phone towards the driver's seat. And my son was laying there. He was unresponsive and he looked dead.
If found guilty, Potter could face just over 7 years for first-degree manslaughter and 4 years for the second-degree charge. Prosecutors have said they will seek a longer sentence. Potter is expected to testify during the trial. Jason Perry, NTD News.
Scott Peterson, who made headlines in 2002 for the murder of his wife Lacey, was resentenced today to life without parole. Peterson was previously sentenced to death. In August 2020, the California Supreme Court ruled that the jury was improperly screened for bias against the death penalty. The death penalty was overturned at that time, but his conviction remained. The prosecution chose to settle for life without parole in the December 8th ruling. Family members called out Peterson for an apparent lack of remorse for his actions. Peterson's previous sentence was handed down in November 2004. A jury convicted him of first-degree murder for the death of his wife, and he was additionally charged with second-degree murder for the death of his unborn son. And Arizona is moving public safety resources to the southern border to deal with the surge in illegal immigration. Governor Doug Ducey is sending National Guard members to the Yuma area, which he says is being inundated with illegal crossings. NTD's Allison Lee brings us more.
The latest deployment to Yuma includes 24 Arizona National Guard members, 6 vehicles, 4 ATVs, and 1 helicopter. They will support the state's Department of Public Safety. The governor visited the Yuma sector of the border on Tuesday. Here's what he told ABC 15 about the situation.
We asked them to bring back Title 42, which is the Remain in Mexico policy. They've announced it, but they're putting it forward piecemeal. So what you have is the drug cartels taking full advantage of these people in a rush to get them over the border.
Footage shows illegal immigrants crossing through a gap in a border wall even while the governor was speaking. Ducey blames the Biden administration for the border crisis, saying, "It's clear the Biden administration has created a December disaster at our border. As a result of piecemeal policy and a lack of federal involvement, U.S. Customs and Border Protection has been inundated. We simply cannot stand by and watch this catastrophe unfold." In October, U.S. border agents made more than 164,000 encounters at the southern border. Allison Lee, NTD News.
Former Trump White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows is suing House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and the House January 6th committee. That's after the committee says they will move forward with criminal contempt charges against Meadows. Meadows filed the lawsuit today in D.C. federal court. He argued that the January 6th committee went too far trying to acquire records that he considers privileged information, such as his cell phone data. Meadows announced yesterday that he's no longer cooperating with the committee. The committee previously subpoenaed Meadows to appear for evidence and provide documents. Committee members say they have no choice but to recommend criminal contempt charges against Meadows. And the head of Instagram is the latest social media CEO to testify before federal lawmakers. Today, he came as a witness before a Senate subcommittee. NTD's Arian Pazdar has more.
Are your kids using Instagram because it could be dangerous to their well-being, especially for teen girls? Documents show the app can cause anxiety, depression, and even suicidal thoughts in young girls. And apparently, Instagram's CEO knows that. Now the Senate wants to find out just how much he knows exactly.
Facebook knows about the harm. It's done the research, the studies, the surveys repeatedly. It knows the destructive consequences of the algorithms and designs. It knows teens struggle with addiction and depression on Instagram.
Instagram has an algorithm that shows users content they're interested in, but that content can often be negative, as a senator demonstrated with an experiment.
We created another fake account for a teenager and followed a few accounts promoting eating disorders, and again, within an hour, all of our recommendations promoted pro-anorexia and eating disorder content. Images we could not, in good conscience, show in this room.
Senators also pointed out that a third of young girls on the platform say they feel bad about their bodies when they're on Instagram. But instead of keeping young kids off the platform, Instagram allegedly tries to keep them on to not lose money.
Is it true that someone in your company said that it was an existential threat if you lost teen users?
Senator, I don't...
Is that true or not? Because we have a document that said that.
Senator, I assume that's true.
Senators want to pass legislation that would give the government insight on how exactly Instagram's algorithm works. They hope to prevent young users from being targeted by harmful content. Arian Pastar, NTD News.
Coming up, California updated its statewide guidelines for proof of vaccination requirements to include children. Certain city-owned venues also updated their guidelines to reflect the statewide changes. And California school districts are dropping D and F grades for high school students. Some educators see it as lowering the bar, making it offensive and detrimental. Before the curtains rise or the hockey puck drops this week, Californians will need to check the updated COVID-19 policies. The state and certain city-owned venues recently adopted new proof of vaccination rules for children. NTD's Cynthia Kai has the details.
The Chase Center in San Francisco and the SAP Center in San Jose recently announced that children aged 5 to 11 are now required to show proof of vaccination or a negative COVID-19 test within 72 hours. The SAP Center is also requiring 3- and 4-year-olds to show a negative test to enter. The updated rules came on Monday and took effect immediately. Locals expressed their views on the new changes.
I think it's ridiculous. I think adults have the opportunity to be vaccinated, and so they can make those choices for themselves. I think parents should have the right to make the choice for their child. And at this point, everyone 5 and over has the opportunity to be vaccinated. I don't think it should be forced upon a child who the family doesn't feel like it's appropriate for their child. So it shouldn't affect a person who feels vaccinated. They should be safe. And so I don't think that a required test for a 3-year-old to go to a Christmas ballet is appropriate.
Others said the mandates are unnecessary.
The vaccine is really untested, and kids that young, we don't know what's going to happen to the kids in the future. It could harm them, and a lot of people don't care in this world about that. They're just pushing these mandates that really don't need to be mandated. It's wrong.
Other venues, such as the San Jose Center for Performing Arts, also updated their requirements to reflect statewide policies. Events held at the theater with over 1,000 people will require proof of vaccination or a negative COVID-19 test within 72 hours. Events with less than 1,000 attendees will only require people aged 12 and up to show proof of vaccination. A negative test will not be accepted. Last Wednesday, the state updated its requirements for mega events. These events are defined as indoor events with 1,000 or more people and outdoor events with 10,000 or more people. People aged 3 and older attending these large events are required to show proof of full vaccination or a negative COVID-19 test. Attendees aged 18 and older must provide identification at mega events. Cynthia Kai, NTD News, California.
Some school districts in California are planning to get rid of D and F grades for high school students to make it easier for them to be accepted into the state's colleges. However, some educators consider the move dishonest and offensive. Here's NTD's Eileen Eng with more.
Some of California's largest school districts are dropping D and F grades for high school students. While the hope is to help students re-engage in school after distance learning and to boost their chances of acceptance into the state's public colleges, some educators find lowering the bar both offensive and detrimental. Unified school districts in San Diego, Los Angeles, Oakland, and Sacramento are several cities that are phasing out grades below a C. Students can retake a test and get more time to turn in assignments if they fail or don't complete them. Those who don't meet expectations by the end of the semester would earn an incomplete. According to an assistant principal at Fremont High in Oakland, they hope school is seen as a place for learning instead of compliance. But California's K-12 schools already show some of the lowest performance in the nation. According to U.S. News and Wallet Hub, California schools rank at most 40th. A teacher and former board member for the Orange Unified School District said parents and students find it offensive. She has helped students work hard in study hall.
Even though, maybe they were discouraged because they were failing, when they did finally get up to that point, there was a great sense of accomplishment. It stretched them as far as their grit and their resilience to get to that place of that goal they wanted to meet. And to remove that goal and that benchmark it would offend kids because it's like, you don't think I'm smart enough?
LEBSEC also foresees consequences for lowering the bar.
Not ever having a consequence for, a lack of discipline is just going to incentivize kids to do the least amount that's expected.
In Oakland, high schools are gradually moving towards the new system, giving parents, students, and teachers time to understand and accept the change. No date has been set yet as to when it will be implemented. Eileen Eng, NTD News, California.
Geologists are keeping a close eye on one of North America's most active fault lines after more than 40 earthquakes rattled off the Oregon coast. The quakes started Tuesday and continued into Wednesday, ranging from 3.5 to 5.8. The U.S. National Tsunami Warning Center says none of the earthquakes have triggered a tsunami alert. The swarm of earthquakes clustered about 200 to 250 miles west of Newport, Oregon. They were far enough away, though, that people on land couldn't detect them. The fault line is called the Blanco Fracture Zone. Analysts at Oregon State University say it has produced more than 1,500 quakes of magnitude 4 or greater since the 1970s. And one industry facing a labor shortage is trucking. So to drive through this holiday season, Amazon is pushing to recruit big rig contractors to haul goods across its web of warehouses. NTD's Colin Fredrickson has those details.
Class A truck drivers, are you ready for a new ride?
Amazon is dealing with a lack of truck drivers in its own transportation network. Its project, called Amazon Freight Partners, or AFP, enlists independent trucking companies to move goods between Amazon facilities.
This program is essentially their way to lock in the very low supply of truck drivers into their own ecosystem.
These partner companies are exclusive Amazon contractors. They move packages to and from Amazon's fleet of 85 North American airplanes. Babar Khan Javed is Director of Public Affairs at Z2C Limited. He says in order to attract more truck drivers, Amazon is offering incentives like signing bonuses and flexibility.
The range of the salary that they're offering between $18 to $27 an hour is outstanding. You can work up to 13 hours in a day. You can work at least 3 days in a week. So
Javed thinks AFP is not a sustainable program.
At some point in time, they will be scaling it back. And as you see automated vehicles coming up and as you see routes involving moving in a straight line, you'll see less and less reliance on human beings.
Managing Director at Capture, Bob Bilbrecht says right now we're seeing a lot of the human element that's bottlenecking the supply chain. Technology might be the cure in the long run.
When we eliminate that human element and we put more intelligence into that system and a lot more autonomy in the form of autonomous vehicles, either in flight or on the road, I think that's going to be a much more improved system.
In October, Amazon said higher wages, more worker incentives, and inflation in services contributed to $2 billion in extra expenses in the prior quarter. It expects those costs to double for the current holiday quarter, threatening to erase profit in its biggest selling period. Colin Frederickson, NTD News.
Coming up, India's defense chief and 12 others were killed today when their military helicopter crashed in the southern part of the country. And a secret deal between Apple and Beijing is revealed. Carrying a $275 billion value, Apple had promised to help the communist regime develop its economy and technology. Find out what Apple got in exchange and more.
Secure, the true solution for your digital privacy and security. Secure is a private and secure messaging and email solution hosted in Switzerland, using military-grade encryption and Swiss privacy laws, giving you true privacy. Secure is 100% private and does not collect or sell any of your personal data. Secure's Helix technology connects you securely to our Swiss servers without the need of a VPN, guaranteeing privacy and security for all your communications. Secure Messenger doesn't require your phone number or any personal data that hackers target. Chat by Invites allows you to chat privately and securely with anyone outside of your secure network without the need for others to download Secure. Secure Send offers you a private and secure way to email anyone outside of Secure. You won't find this level of privacy or security on any other email or instant messaging application. Visit secure.com. Regain and protect your privacy today.
Oh, hey, doesn't it feel like there's communists everywhere? In fact, the Chinese Communist Party has been subverting America from every angle. So whether it's compromising our politicians, controlling Hollywood, manipulating Wall Street, or infiltrating our schools, they have stopped at nothing to take down America. And I believe that in order for us to not become like China, we need citizens who know the truth. So go on over to getepic.com, stay informed with a subscription to the Epic Times, and you will get instant access to this infographic.
A tragedy strikes India today after a military helicopter crashed in the southern part of the country. The accident killed the nation's defense chief and 12 others on board. The Indian Air Force confirmed on Twitter that General Bipin Rawat and his wife both died in the accident. Rawat was India's first chief of defense staff. He had served the country's current government since late 2019. The general was traveling from an Indian Air Force base to deliver a lecture at the Defense Services Staff College just 60 miles away. The accident occurred along the flight path near the town of Coonoor. The Air Force said the deaths also include 4 of the helicopter's 5 crew members. Investigations are ongoing. And a secret deal between Apple and Beijing. It's a $100 billion agreement to help the communist country develop its economy. In exchange, Beijing is easing its crackdown on Apple's business operations in China and giving the tech giant some assistance.
The news of the deal came out from U.S.-based technology website The Information on Tuesday. The media outlet had done interviews with people familiar with the matter and viewed some internal Apple documents. Apple CEO Tim Cook signed the agreement in 2016 when he visited China, and it lasted 5 years. Back then, the company was dealing with a series of regulatory action in China. The report added Chinese officials believed Apple was not contributing enough to Chinese economy. As a result, Cook signed an investment agreement of $275 billion with a Chinese regime agency. It included building new Apple retail stores, research and development centers, and renewable energy projects. The deal didn't stop there. Apple also promised to help China build the most advanced manufacturing technologies. The CCP had an ambitious development plan called the 13th Five-Year Plan. Regarding the plan, Apple vowed to grow together with Chinese enterprises to achieve mutual benefits and a win-win situation. Internal documents viewed by The Information revealed that Apple also made compromises to Chinese authorities in other areas. In 2015, Chinese authorities demanded that Apple Maps make some islands in the East China Sea look big on the map. China and Japan have been in a dispute over who owns the islands. Chinese regulators threatened not to approve Apple Watch if the company doesn't comply. Apple followed the demand. Apple's App Store in China also looks different than the App Store in the U.S. and other countries. Tens of thousands of apps are missing, including apps of foreign news outlets and encrypted messaging services. Tools for organizing pro-democracy protests are blocked. Apple said it removed the apps in order to comply with Chinese laws. And what about data safety? Apple also appeared to comply with Chinese authorities in this area. According to a New York Times report, Apple is moving some of the personal data of Chinese customers to a data center in the Chinese city of Guiyang. And this data center is a state-owned company. Local authorities have direct access to the data stored there. In the years following the agreement, Apple has been very active in China. For example, the company signed a deal with China's largest wind turbine maker, which is located in Xinjiang, where ethnic Uyghurs face suppression by the communist regime. Apple also launched a $300 million investment fund for clean energy in China. The tech giant added 11 more retail stores and brought a Chinese manufacturer into iPhone 13 production. For Apple, China has turned into a cash cow. In a single year, the company made a record $68 billion in revenue in what it calls Greater China, which includes Hong Kong and Taiwan. And about 1/5 of Apple's total sales come from this region.
The British Broadcasting Company has invested nearly $200 million in Chinese companies through its pension fund. Financial reports filed up to the end of March 2021 show investments in firms that support China's communist regime. The real figure, though, is likely much higher, as the BBC only reveals its 20 largest investments.
The fund represents the pension investments of 47,000 current and former BBC staff. The Chinese firms in the fund's 20 largest holdings include Alibaba, Tencent, and Pinduoduo. Alibaba and Tencent regularly collaborate with the Chinese regime to carry out internet censorship, allegedly providing surveillance software used against Uyghurs. E-commerce platform Pinduoduo is on a U.S. blacklist after violations of intellectual property rights. Former Tory leader Sir Ian Duncan Smith says license fee payers would be horrified to know that the money they pay the BBC ends up sustaining a brutal, dictatorial and violent regime that practices genocide. A BBC spokesman told the Daily Mail the scheme is operationally independent from the BBC and has a wide range of investments with a small proportion of Chinese companies. A responsible investment policy is also in place.
CEOs of some of the biggest crypto firms made their case to Congress today about why they think crypto is the answer for the future. NTD's Phil Zhou has the details.
Congress just wrapped up a nearly 5-hour hearing with crypto leaders going over regulation.
Americans are increasingly making financial decisions using digital assets every day. Currently, cryptocurrency markets have no overarching or centralized regulatory framework.
CEOs from Coinbase, Circle, and more made their case.
Coinbase's mission is to increase economic freedom in the world. Anyone, anywhere, should be able to easily and securely send and receive Bitcoin.
Circle's mission is to raise global economic prosperity through the frictionless exchange of financial value.
One concern is the large amount of energy consumption that crypto takes.
Tied to the computing power needed to mine some of the coins, which can rival the energy needs of entire countries like Sweden or Argentina.
Around 40 lawmakers chimed in on the debate. Some were in support of crypto and wanted to stay in the U.S.
We should embrace it, we should understand it, and we should be the international leaders in this space. How do we make sure, as American policymakers, that this cryptocurrency revolution, this technology revolution, happens in the U.S. and not overseas.
The committee says it will continue looking into how crypto will impact the lives of Americans and the financial system. Phil Zhou, NTD News.
The Federal Aviation Administration has new rules banning pilots from using automatic landing systems at low altitudes because of possible interference from 5G networks. The FAA officials say the networks could disrupt navigation and cause flight diversions. The agency also says 5G could interfere with instruments pilots use to land in poor visibility conditions. The FAA plans to identify airports that will be affected by the restrictions. Those airports will use alternate methods to avoid the 5G interference. And the wireless industry had initially planned to turn on the 5G antennas this month, but the rollout was postponed until January because of the airline industry's concerns. And coming up, Social Democrat Olaf Scholz becomes the new Chancellor of Germany, ending 16 years of rule under Angela Merkel. And a horrific tragedy in Germany, where police say a father killed his family and himself because he feared losing his children over a fake vaccine certificate. Find out more in just a moment. Britain's foreign secretary was questioned today on tensions between Russia and Ukraine after outlining Britain's foreign policy priorities in a speech. She said the government is already providing security and defense support to Ukraine, and that ministers are very clear that they are standing with Ukraine in the face of Russian aggression. NTD's Malcolm Hudson has more on this.
Liz Truss gave her first major speech as Foreign Secretary here at the Chatham House think tank, saying the free world needs to step up in terms of security and defence. When asked about possible future conflicts such as over Ukraine and Taiwan, she said the best way to prevent them is from a position of strength.
Together we will send a clear message that any incursion by Russia into Ukraine would be a strategic mistake. As President Biden said, there would be very real costs to pay.
Truss said the UK stands with Ukraine in supporting its security, defence and energy independence, and that the UK needs to avoid dependencies on other countries.
We need to avoid strategic dependency on Russian gas. We need to avoid strategic dependency on China.
During the Q&A, she was asked about possible conflicts. Specifically, Russia's aggression against Ukraine and China's threat over Taiwan were raised. She was asked whether the West has the resources and the political will to step up to such a challenge.
We absolutely want to prevent that, but the best way to prevent that is from a position of strength.
She also said it's important for the UK to use its broad diplomatic reach to hold the Taliban to account, and that we need to stop Afghanistan from becoming a hotbed of terrorism. Truss said she wants to achieve this by working together with like-minded countries.
Now is the time for the free world to fight back and to use the power of economics and technology to promote freedom, not fear.
Truss said that while the UK and the EU don't agree on everything, they do agree on the core principles of freedom and democracy. She said she wants the UK to work with the EU to promote these values worldwide. Malcolm Hudson, NTD News, London.
Germany has a new chancellor. Today, their parliament elected Social Democrat Olaf Scholz, ending 16 years of rule under Angela Merkel. Scholz took the oath of office soon after.
I swear that I will dedicate my efforts to the well-being of the German people, promote their welfare, protect them from harm, uphold and defend the basic law and the laws of the Federation, perform my duties conscientiously, and do justice to all.
Scholz did not ask for God's help, a phrase that is usually included in the oath of office and was spoken by Merkel. He is Germany's 9th Chancellor since the end of World War II. On the same day, Germany's president nominated the cabinet members during a small ceremony. Scholz will lead an unprecedented three-party coalition together with the environmentalist Green Party and the pro-business Free Democrats.
And staying in Germany, a family of 5 was found dead in their home last weekend. Now, the prosecutor has said that in a note police found, the father said he did the killing because he feared losing his children over a forged vaccination certificate. This report comes from NTD's Eddie Aitken.
A German prosecutor on Tuesday said that the German man who killed his family before taking his own life had faked a vaccination certificate and feared his children would be taken away from him when the forgery was discovered. Police found 2 adults and 3 young girls dead from gunshot wounds in a family home in the town of Königs Wusterhausen, south of Berlin, on Saturday. In a farewell note found by police, the man, who reportedly worked as a teacher at a vocational school, said he forged a vaccination certificate for his wife. The prosecutor said her employer, a local university, had found out, prompting the couple to fear they would be arrested and lose their children. Local media reports the family was popular in the community after moving there 3 years ago. The case comes as Germany has been tightening up COVID-19 restrictions. From last month, employees have been required to show proof they are vaccinated, recovered, or test negative for COVID-19. And German authorities agreed last week to bar the unvaccinated from access to all but the most essential businesses. The new government also plans to let Parliament vote on making the vaccine mandatory for some jobs. Eddie Aitken, NTD News.
Coming up, a Chicago man's award-winning Christmas display is sharing profits with families in need. And it doesn't get more festive than a Christmas market in Paris. Locals and tourists alike are enjoying hot food and holiday shopping in the heart of the city. That and more after the break.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell. Cancel culture has not only affected myself and MyPillow, but millions of you out there. Before all this started, I had already written in my memoir, I dedicate this book to anyone that's looking for hope. Well, right now, we're all looking for hope. I believe that my story is going to bring inspiration and hope to everyone. By the time you're done reading my book, you will believe that with God, all things are possible. To thank you all for your support, I'm offering some of my best prices ever on MyPillow products, including this exclusive bundle. You get my book and these 5 MyPillows. They all have beautiful scenes and verses from the Bible, such as Isaiah 41:10. Do not fear, for I am with you. This 6-pack bundle is regularly $219. Now it's just $99.98 and free shipping with your promo code. Go to mypillow.com and use the promo code on your screen or call the 1-800 number below. Thank you and God bless.
Decorating for the holidays is a tradition for many families, but few can rival this man's Christmas extravaganza in a Chicago suburb. He's using its popularity to make donations for families in need and give them a better holiday season.
Dominic Kowalczyk, a Tinley Park resident in the suburbs of Chicago, puts up an impressive Christmas winter wonderland in his front yard every year to celebrate the holidays and help families in need.
I've been doing it for over 25 years. I was probably a little kid, probably 10, 12 years old when I started, and it's just kind of grown bigger and bigger every year.
The award-winning display is not done overnight. It takes years to fine-tune. This year it took 3 weeks to install the display.
Everybody's on board and got a lot of helpers that help us do this. There was over 80 people that helped us put this up this year.
After receiving thousands of visitors and winning multiple awards over the years, Dominic decided to use the display to help those in need with visitors' donations.
So we decided to donate to a local homeless prevention agency called Together We Cope. They help normal families like you and me that are just, in times of temporary crisis. So we started donating to them. We've been donating to them for the last 7 years, and last year we collected over $32,000.
His display was so successful that it has resulted in complaints from neighbors because of all the traffic jams.
So I have a large group of people going to the village board meeting tonight in support of us and, tell them all the good that we do, and, hopefully everything will go over well.
I think it's Christmas time and, you're going to have people that complain, but they should let it happen. It's for the kids. It's for the families. Especially this time of year, they shouldn't complain.
The frigid temperature did not stop the kids from enjoying the display.
It's really nice because it's just, fun for all the kids to come over, and it's really cute.
I like this display because there's lots of detail to it.
Dominic's Winter Wonderland at 17321 Avon Lane in Tinley Park, Illinois will be on display until after Christmas. He hopes it will bring smiles and cheers to everyone during this holiday season.
And while Christmas in the U.S. calls for turkey and mistletoe, in France, mulled wine and melted cheese are on the menu. NTD's David Vives takes us to a festive holiday market in Paris.
There's nothing like one of these holiday markets to get a taste of Christmas. Situated next to the Louvre Museum, the Tuileries Gardens offers locals and tourists more than just a walk between these statues. This Christmas market hosts a variety of street vendors which serve up restaurant-quality food.
It's more than just sandwiches. We do special recipes such as tartiflette. I think customers are happy. We see some of them coming back and ordering again.
This is what can be called a winter dish, smoked or roasted ham with hot dripping cheese. Dishes that are warm and rich in flavor can be found on the restaurant's menus. Many offer classic winter recipes, such as mulled wine or onion soup. There are also plenty of opportunities to shop. An alley full of shops features some traditional crafts, like this artisan who make decorative sculptures.
I've been doing this for 18 years. These are sculptures inspired by art from the 19th century. This is a specialized craft. It's called art molding.
Paris is hosting around 15 Christmas markets this year. Unfortunately, it's uncertain if they will remain open until the end of the year. The French Prime Minister said Monday that some venues, such as nightclubs, will be closed to the public because of a surge in COVID-19 infections. But at least for now, it's still possible to enjoy delectable Christmas meals in the street of Paris. David Vives, NTD News.
A team of architects and others have traded glass, steel, and wood for dough, sweets, and icing. The Gingerbread City 2021 exhibition in London has opened. It explores the theme Nature in the City. NTD's Neil Woodrow takes it in.
The Gingerbread City, designed by architects here in London, is baked, iced and decorated, ready for visitors. Let's find out more. The Museum of Architecture's Gingerbread City 2021 is made entirely from gingerbread and confectionery. Some of the UK's leading architects, engineers, landscape architects and designers have come together to create this wintry mini-urban landscape. Now in its 5th year, Rob Fain from the museum tells us more about the project.
So the Museum of Architecture is all about engaging with the general public. And so we looked at the gingerbread house as this wonderful treat that children and parents really enjoy. So we wanted to translate that into something more special, more wonderful, and also encourage architects to really push the boat out.
Each year they set a new theme.
So this year's theme is all about the relationship between architecture and nature and rewilding the city, and ways that we can bring the natural world, flora and fauna, into the city spaces to make a greener, happier and healthier environment.
The exhibition comprises over 100 individual gingerbread structures built across different environmental zones.
Yeah, so really there are 5 key zones, and they respond to different ways that nature can come into the city. So the city is bordered by the green belt and forests. There's also floodplains that exist within the city to deal with water runoff. There's even urban farms, places where you can grow your own food. So really the city is not divorced from the natural landscape. It's actually completely intertwined, and that's what we're really trying to communicate with this year's city.
In case you're wondering, no one eats the display once the event closes.
I wouldn't advise anybody eats the cake. It is designed to a structural recipe rather than an edible recipe. However, we do make it out of food so that you can, when you come here, you can see that it smells and looks delightful. The children do want to take a little nibble, but they're not allowed to.
Visitors can also build their own nature-inspired gingerbread building by joining a daily workshop and take it home with them. It's recommended to pre-book online. A lot of work has gone into creating this fun city with meaning, but remember, it's not for eating. Neil Woodrow, NTD News, London.
2 Spanish police officers braved frigid temperatures and waded into a frozen reservoir to rescue a stranded dog. Police said on Wednesday that the rescue took place as a cold front arrived in the northern part of the country. Footage released by the police shows 2 officers entering the semi-frozen water and using a long branch to help the dog free itself. The police department said the animal had been in the water for a long time before they received the alert. And that's all for tonight's news. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Stephanie Cox.
Thanks for watching us on YouTube. Did you know YouTube only keeps selected videos on its platform? So if you want to make sure you get the full picture, just subscribe to our newsletter. Go to newsletter.ntd.com and sign up. It's free.